Erev Tov, everyone. Erev Tov. It is Monday night. It is 8 p.m. here on the east side of the United States, here in the diaspora. This is the Maimon Beit Knesset. Therefore, it must be Zeyde Story Corner. That's right. Zeyde Story Corner. Summer is over, and we are back. Yes, we are. Okay, so how was summer? It's pretty good, pretty good. Yeah, it was pretty good for us too. It's a lot of house hunting. Yeah, a lot of house hunting, which didn't bear any fruit yet. So we were hoping to get into something, so we would have a bigger studio and stuff like that. And we're still working on it. Let us see who we have in the chat room. We have Simcha and Ronald, Yehuda, and Veronica, Marshall, of course, and Shoshi. And where's Donald? I don't know. Maybe he's just late. Somebody go get Donald. Yeah. Very rarely does he ever miss your show at all. That's true. Very rarely. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, we are back with our regular schedule, at least for the next 3 weeks, because then we go into the high holy days and Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot, and Sukkot, and the whole thing that goes on during Tishrei, and so we will be off for a little bit during the high holy days. Of course, we will be doing services as we always do. And then we will return and we will pick up where we left off on our various shows. And so we are going to continue with the Sephardic tales. Yeah, the stories from the Sephardic world. And wait a minute. What? You forgot something. What did I forget? Anshel. Oh, that's right. Yeah, we want to wish a happy anniversary to Rabbi Anshel and his wife Jasmine, who are celebrating, I don't know, it's like over 20 years, I think. We're not quite sure. Yeah. Anyway, we want. So I get to sing. Well, it's a special occasion, so I guess you probably could go ahead and sing. Okay, I go sing. Oh, how we danced on the night we were red. We danced and we danced, 'cause the room had no bed. Okay, well, I'm glad you got that out of your system. I love that song. I know you love that song, and you don't get to sing it quite enough as you would like to. Every week would not be enough. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Okay, so we should probably get on to the stories. So let me get you onto your camera. That camera looks different. Yeah, it is. It's actually the same camera. It's just we have a different mount so that we could get a little bit higher. Yeah, this way nobody is looking up my nose all through the show. Not that that's a very bad thing, but because I do have a rather nice nose, as you can tell here. Okay, anyway, so we should probably get on with these stories for tonight. And you can see my beautiful eyes now. With the camera down up there a little bit higher, you can see my beautiful eyes. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I look so good. Well, don't you agree? Okay, so anyway, let us get on with our stories for tonight. This first story is called The Gilgul. In the town of Rashi in Galicia, there lived a fabulously wealthy man, a renowned scholar, crowned with glory and honors, and descended from one of the best families in the country. Even though the man had heard much about the powers and wonders of the Baal Shem Tov, He was always preoccupied with his own affairs and with learning Torah, of course. It never occurred to him to visit the rabbi and see his miracles with his own eyes. One day, though, the idea came to him that perhaps it would be worthwhile to visit the holy Tzaddik and find out what he was like, even though he had no intention of becoming one of his disciples. He ordered his servants to harness the carriage and traveled straight to the holy rabbi in the town of Medzebozh. As he crossed the threshold of the rabbi's house, he inquired about the rabbi's health. After they had exchanged a few words, the rich man gave him a generous donation. "What do you lack?" asked the rabbi. "Thank God I am extremely rich and want nothing," answered the rich man. "The Holy One, blessed be He, has blessed me with sons, all of whom are the sons-in-law of rabbis and sages, and all my household and family are content. I have no need to appeal to the king." The rabbi would not relent. "So, why have you come here?" "I came here just to behold your holy countenance." "You mean you came here only to meet me? You traveled this long journey only for my sake?" "That being the case, sit down and study my face carefully while I tell you a story." The Baal Shem Tov began this tale. In a certain city there lived two rich men, and each had a son. You got to get that in the middle of the page, otherwise I can't read it. Yeah, I know. It's kind of slipped around on me. Okay, in a certain city there lived two rich men, and each had a son. The sons were the same age and alike in their virtues. In their childhood, when they were close neighbors, and in the prime of their youth, a deep love grew between them. They studied with the same teacher and out of the same book, and loved each other with an intense affection. When they grew into manhood, however, they married and left their native town, each for a different city. Their love survived this separation, and they wrote each other every week. As time went on, though, their correspondence dwindled to once a month. When they became preoccupied with their increasing affairs, their letters were exchanged only once in 6 months. And finally, they stopped corresponding altogether. The friendship was forgotten, while both prospered steadily and became very rich. After many years, one of them ran out of luck. He lost all his wealth and property and became dreadfully poor. In his distress, he remembered his friend, who was still immensely rich. He said to himself, "I will go ask him for help. Surely he will be happy to see me and will assist me." From his neighbors he borrowed clothes and some money for expenses on the trip. After many adventures en route, he reached his destination. The friend of his youth rushed to greet him when they met. He brought him home and made him a royal feast, and rejoiced with his old comrade. During the meal, while all the members of the household were busy eating and drinking, the host quietly asked his guest about his station and condition. "Even these clothes are not mine," came a soft reply. "From head to toe, I acquired them all through the generosity of friends." When the host heard of this, he ordered his faithful clerk to calculate what he was worth. After he received a full and accurate reckoning, he called his friend into his private cabinet. "This is the sum total of the wealth with which the Holy One, blessed is He, has blessed me and within His beneficence. Take half of it, and fret no more." He gave him a share of all his goods, endowing him generously with everything, as fast friends do, and wished him nothing but success and ease. Then the poor friend returned home, overjoyed, and resumed his commerce. His success returned, and his business prospered until he was even richer than before. Meanwhile, the rich friend who had given him half his wealth and saw his own luck vanish. He sank lower and lower, and his remaining wealth melted away like ice. The members of his household were left naked and in utter want. When the burden of suffering had become too heavy to bear, he heard that his friend's success and prospered. He was very glad for his friend's success and thought, "God will help me too, even though my salvation is far away." But salvation never came. When his endurance was at an end and he could no longer tolerate his misery, he decided to appeal to his friend, who had become rich thanks to his generous gift of half his fortune. So the man made the laborious journey to his friend's town. The poor man reached his friend's house, but the friend failed to recognize him. The visitor pleaded with him. "I am your friend," he said in his name, "and have come to you. Behold my misery, and see how poor and destitute I stand before you." But when the rich man heard this, he twisted his face and quivered with rage. "What does this poor man have to do with me?" he asked. "This miserable wretch will not enter my house." And he refused to let him in. His heart overflowing with shame and grief, the poor man left his friend. He cried long and bitterly and poured out his heart before the Creator. And God heard his prayers. The poor man returned home and put his trust in the Creator of heaven and earth, who supports and sustains us all. The poor man turned his attention to his business, and God sent him assistance. Once again, he made a living, but not because of the assistance of human beings. Step by step, His trade increased, and he recovered his prosperity. Soon his wealth returned to its previous level. Remembering the days when he was destitute and wretched, he took pity on the poor, inviting the indigent and needy to his home, feeding them and giving them money. He never turned away any poor person. One day, a poor man came to his house. It was evident that he had known better days. But the wheel had turned and his fortune had melted away. The host asked where he came from. "I must mention my sins today," replied the poor man. "I am your friend who hardened his heart against you when you were down on your luck and threw you out of my house and would not let you in. But God discovered my sin and paid me back sevenfold. He hurled me from heaven to earth until there is nothing left in my house worth much as a penny, so I could buy food for even a single meal." When the host beheld his friend and his state, he was overcome with pity and forgot what he had done when he appealed for his help. Once again, he gave him half his wealth as previously. Before he did so, however, he said, "Know, my friend, that I am not giving you this as a gift, but as a loan. You must promise to pay me and sign a promissory note. Repay the debt when God has assisted you. Do not be angry with me," the rich friend added. "My heart murmurs with dread that the years may yet wear me down and swallow me up. Do we not see that the wheel of fortune turns without pause? One man rises while another falls. I am afraid you might treat me, heaven forbid, the same way you did before. So this bond will be a witness between us." The friend gave him a promissory note signed and sealed according to the law, and took his leave of him in love and peace. Days passed, and then years, and the man who had given his friend half his fortune again fell low. He grew old and could no longer conduct his business properly. He was overwhelmed by his troubles. But he thought, "This time I will be saved by my friend's bond." He set off for his friend's town, taking the promissory note with him. But the friend had not changed and would not admit him to his presence. The wretched man appealed to the courts, hoping the judges would help him collect on the note. But the magistrates were mortally afraid of the rich man, who dominated all of them. Once again, the poor man left the town disconsolately, with no relief for his ruined condition. Eventually, both men passed away. Their souls were brought before the heavenly tribunal. Its verdict was that the soul of the rich man be catapulted to the deepest abyss of hell, while the poor man was elevated to the highest level in paradise, where his soul would be in the company of the righteous. But the poor man refused to accept the boon. How can I find sweetness in paradise, he said, while my friend is in hell being tormented on my account? Because he refused to accept its verdict, the heavenly tribunal allowed him to make his own judgment and render a true verdict on the condition that his friend make amends for his sins. When the poor man realized that the only way to help his friend was for both of them to return to the world of falsehood, because only there could the friend make amends for his sin, he decided that both of them would return to this world where he would be poor and his friend rich. The pennies he would beg from him from time to time would accumulate until the debt was paid off. The verdict staggered the heavenly host, but it could not be altered, for such was the poor man's wish. Time passed, and 2 children were born in different towns, one to a poor family, the other to a wealthy family. The children grew to manhood. The poor child became a beggar, collecting alms from door to door. He journeyed from town to town and from village to village until he reached the hometown of his rich friend from their former lives. Although this man was rich and famous, he was a miser and did not give charity to his poor brethren. The fact that was known to the entire neighborhood. When the poor man came to the city starving, he went to the rich man's house. "I am starving," he pleaded. "I will surely die unless you give me the price of a loaf of bread so I can restore my soul." The rich man bellowed at him, and when the poor man dared to answer him, the rich man was infuriated. He went down to the poor man and slapped him twice across the face. The poor man collapsed and died on the rich man's threshold. At this point in his narrative, the Baal Shem Tov looked straight at the rich man. Look at me and listen carefully. The poor man came from a different town and had no relative or redeemer to avenge his blood. At once his body was taken from the rich man's door and carried off for interment. The townfolk wrapped him in a shroud and buried him in the Jewish cemetery. Tell me now, have you been listening carefully? Do you lack anything? The rich man fell prostrate on the ground and cried, "Woe is me! I am that man! Before I came here to visit the holy tzaddik, a poor man came to my door. When I threw him out, he fell dead on my doorstep." Weeping bitterly, the man asked the rabbi whether all the gates of repentance were shut against him. Was there no way to make amends for his wrongdoing? The rabbi answered, "If you can find the children of the dead beggar and reach some agreement with them, there may be hope for you in the end. But if not, you are accursed beyond all the wicked on earth, nor will you rest in the grave. For you have killed your friend, who was willing for your sake to return to this world so you could repent your evil ways and not be hurled into the depths of perdition." Hear this and know that there is a God who judges the world. May the good Lord return us to the path of righteousness and keep us from temptation. May he put an end to our troubles and set us our righteous Messiah and redeem us completely, speedily in our days. Amen. What a great story for this month, huh? Coming up to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Yeah, it was. This was a amazing story. Yes, it's very good. I hope you all enjoyed it. Okay, so we have another story about Gilgul. And this one is different than the other one, but still a very good story. This one is called, we should check the time here. Oh, it is 8:26 already. That was a long story. Yeah, it was a bit of a long story. So what do you think? Do we, yes, let's take our break. We take our break, we take 6-minute break, and then when we return, we will continue with the Princess Gilgul. So, everyone, please stay tuned. We'll be back in 6.
Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
Delicious things to eat.
The popcorn can't be beat. The sparkling drinks are just dandy. The chocolate bars and the candy. So let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat. Let's all go to the lobby to get ourselves a treat.
It's intermission time, folks, so hurry, hurry, hurry. Step right over to our refreshment center for the most extravagant array of refreshment goodies ever assembled under one roof. Enjoy breathtaking, mouth-watering goodies, everything from a snack to a delicious full meal. At our refreshment center, you'll find a large variety of goodies to satisfy your hunger, your thirst, or your sweet tooth. So hurry, hurry, hurry. Visit our refreshment center now. The show starts in 5 minutes. The show starts in 4 minutes. The show starts in 3 minutes. The show starts in 2 minutes. The show starts in 1 minute. And now, on with the show.
We lost it. Yeah, we kind of did. Usually everything stays in order when it's supposed to, and for some reason it just moved around all by itself. We couldn't find it. Yeah. I don't know what was going on. It looked like we had two things running at the same time. I don't know what was going on. We'll get it straightened out, though. Yeah, it's new software. Yeah, it is. It's new software, and we thought we had it figured out, but evidently not quite. So anyway, we get back with the show, and let's see if we got everything. Okay, so we know where that is now, and okay, so we got that. Okay, so I think we are set. Okay, so let us go on now with the second story, which is called The Princess Gilgul. There was a childless woman who used to visit the Baal Shem Tov from time to time and ask him to pray for her. Each time he put her off, finding some excuse or another, until once she came to him weeping uncontrollably. "Is there anything too wondrous for our Lord?" he said. "At this season next year you will return to me embracing a son." She went home, her heart brimming with faith that the rabbi's blessing would be fulfilled, and so it was. At the end of a full year, she held a son in her arms, well-built and handsome, like no child anywhere in the world. She cared for him day and night and never left him for a moment. She nursed him at her breast until it was time to wean him. Then, taking the child, she went to ask the saintly rabbi to bless the child before he turned 2. When she reached the rabbi's home, he held the had the child brought into him, took it, and kissed it. Then he sent it back to its mother. Her child in her arms, the mother returned home, her heart full of joy, prepared to raise her son to Torah, the marriage canopy, and good deeds. But God willed otherwise. On his second birthday, the child took sick and died. The mother wept bitterly and refused to be comforted. She went back to the Baal Shem Tov, wailing and crying, "You, my rabbi and teacher, she said, you foresaw the death of my son. You took his soul and killed him." The rabbi listened quietly and begged her not to cry. "Sit down and rest and listen to my story. Perhaps you will find some consolation in it." The broken-hearted woman calmed down and took a seat at the side of the room. The rabbi began to tell this tale. Once, there was a great and powerful king who ruled over 120 provinces. But he was not happy because he had no son. The king, not knowing who would sit on his throne after him, was concerned for the future of his kingdom. Now, this king had a Jewish counselor. Once the king asked him, "God has crowned me with glory and majesty. I am a great king, ruling over many peoples and many lands, but one thing he has not given me, a son to take my place." "None in all your kingdom can help you in this," replied the counselor, "except for the Jews." When the king heard this, he said, "I will remit all their taxes and protect and shelter them against their enemies." The counselor answered, "You are mistaken, my lord king. You do not know this nation. It is not through a remission of taxes that your salvation will come, and certainly you will not obtain a son that way. This nation has power only through prayer. If you decree that all the Jews in your kingdom must pray that God grant you a son, a male heir to sit on your throne after you, their prayers will certainly be received, and a year hence the queen will be embracing a son. But if the Lord denies your wife children even after this, then you should expel the Jews from all the provinces of your kingdom, not allowing a single one to remain, since they will have betrayed you, and their prayers were in vain." The king heeded the advice of his Jewish counselor and did as he recommended. He wrote letters and sealed them with the royal seal and sent them to the Jews in the provinces of the king, instructing them to pray to the God of Israel, that he strengthen his house and give him a son to inherit his throne. But should the queen fail to give birth to a son during the coming year, let not a single Jew dare remain in his kingdom. When the king's edict reached the Jews, they decreed a public fast, gathered in the synagogues, and poured out their hearts before the Creator of the universe. They cried out to God, and their lamentations rose to the heavens. where they caused all the dwellers on high to tremble. When one holy soul heard the Jews' cries, it came before the throne of glory and prostrated itself before God. I will go down and be the son of the king who threatens your people Israel, it said, for I have taken pity on them. That year the queen conceived and bore a son. The Jews were overjoyed. The boy grew up and was weaned. He was educated in the manner of princes. Then they brought tutors to teach him all the arts and sciences. Everything his teachers taught he learned quickly, because he had a quick grasp, sharp intellect, and wonderful memory. But the lad complained to his father, I get no pleasure from what I am learning. I want to be taught a doctrine that will delight my soul. His father, extremely happy, replied, I will send you to Rome, where the Pope will teach you a doctrine that will gladden your soul. What did the king do? He summoned the Pope and instructed him to teach the 7 sciences to his only son whom he loved. The Pope replied, I am ready to fulfill the king's decree to the letter, but I have one request to make of the king, namely, that for 2 hours each day your son not be with me. Every day I will shut myself up in my room and devote my body and soul to heavenly affairs. Anyone who visits me in my chamber during those hours must be adjudged guilty of a capital offense by the king's decree. I ask the king that this law apply even to your own dear son. The king promised the Pope that he would do as he wished. At once the Pope began teaching the prince. After a year, the prince had mastered everything the Pope knew. In many areas, he even excelled his teacher because he was possessed of sterling abilities, as befits a pure and holy soul. But the thought occurred to the prince, if I am so dear to my father and also to the Pope, and I know everything, why shouldn't I know what the Pope is doing during those 2 hours? He acquired a spare key and stealthily went and unlocked the door. He found the Pope wrapped in a talit and wearing tefillin, sitting and learning Gemara with the commentaries. When the Pope saw the prince, he fainted dead away, terrified that it would now become known that he was really a Jew. Do not fear or fret, said the prince. I won't tell anyone if you teach me this doctrine. Sit next to me and look on, the Pope replied, and I will reveal to you the wonders of God. From that day forth, the prince joined the Pope in his room and learned Gemara, which fascinates the mind and is as sweet as honey. After the prince had learned the doctrine of the Jews, he asked his teacher, if the Jewish doctrine is the true doctrine, why have you led so many people astray with your vain dogma? Over the years, I have become accustomed to it, he replied. But I have never forsaken the holy doctrine of my ancestors. What can I do to convert and find shelter on the wings of the Shekhinah? Asked the prince. Your father was getting on in years, wanted a son and heir to sit on his throne after him. But he has scarcely ever let you out of his sight, so that you know nothing of the nature of common people and your kingdom. My advice is that you tell him that you want to tour the country. Since you cannot part from each other for even an hour, you should start going away from each other every so often until you get used to it. This will make it easier for you to escape to the place where nobody knows you and you can become a Jew. May God help you. The prince followed this advice. When the king heard the wise son's proposal to tour the country, he consented at once. They became to accustom themselves to not seeing each other for long periods. Eventually, the prince set out to see the kingdom. When he reached the frontier, he told his coachman to go home because he wanted to stay in that place for a long time. When the prince went to a different country and converted to Judaism, but he told no one who he was. He learned Torah without having to depend on others financially because he had taken a large sum of money with him, enough to support him for the rest of his life. He sat in the Beit Midrash and learned Torah until his death. When he reached the upper world, he was brought before the heavenly tribunal, where they began to examine his deeds. Who could say anything against such a holy soul, which had given itself for the Jewish people? Nevertheless, one spoke up and said that for 2 years he had suckled at a Gentile breast. It was decreed that he return to the lower world to amend this imperfection. Now, you know whom you nursed for 2 years. Every time you came to me in tears, I had no way to help you. But when I saw the verdict passed against this holy soul, I promised you a son. What difference does it make to you that you suckled such a holy soul for 2 years? The woman left the rabbi's house only half consoled. Okay. I don't know. The next one's a kind of a long one. Maybe we wait until next week to do this. Yeah, maybe. This is, well, I don't know. This one doesn't seem to be, yeah, it is kind of getting to that point, isn't it? Yes, it is. Yeah, and we don't want to, not a cliffhanger now. Okay, yeah, we stick with whole stories as much as we can. For Donald's sake. Yeah, okay. Well, Donald does kind of like cliffhangers. I know he does, but I'm sure he will agree. Okay, so the next story we will tell, and we will begin the story next week, will be called A Letter from Morocco to the Western Wall. It's a good story. These are all very good stories for coming up on the high holy days because they all have to do with repentance, which is a good thing. So, so we get ready for Rosh Hashanah and especially for Yom Kippur. Okay, so we will do that next week then. Yes, let's do it next week. Okay. So, okay, let's see if we can get this right now. Okay, let me see. I'm going to have to move these things around here a little bit and get that up there and get that up there. And okay, it looks like everything is where it should be. We're going to find out. Yes, we are. We are going to find out. Okay, so everyone, I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. I hope you enjoyed the stories. There are many, many more to come. We will see you next week. Until then, my good friends, Laila Tov.